Georgia Bureau is underway today. So we're going to have testimony from some officers in an alleged theft in the young thug RICO trial. That's happening dark today. Lots of time to catch up, and we need a breather after all the stuff that's happened this week. We also have a case out of New Hampshire. This is against a man accused of shooting another man, killing him in an alleged bar fight that spilled outside the bar. We also have a preview of some new trials that we're following in the next week. And later today, coverage on a motions hearing and a little case you may have heard about again, also in Georgia, the election RICO trial for former President Donald Trump. I'll tell you how my interview with him went. It was many years ago, but still some insight for you. But for now, again, in Georgia, we're looking at the case against Grammy award-winning rapper Young Thug. He's accused of violating Georgia's anti-racketeering law. RICO is federal and also state in about 6 states, including Georgia. He's got 5 co-defendants, only 6 left. They had about 20-some that were originally indicted. These charges include involvement in an alleged criminal street gang known as YSL. Imagine my surprise when I learned that didn't stand for Yves Saint Laurent, the famous fashion company. Anyway, Young Slime Life is what this is all about, and prosecutors allege that Thug, whose real name is Jeffery Williams, is the leader of this YSL, not Yves Saint Laurent gang. Defense attorneys should say, come on, man, you're illin', because this is really just a record label. So some of the former defendants in the case, including the rapper Gunna, has taken plea deals. Probably going to hear some testimony from some of them, those deals taking place prior to the start of trial. Again, court dark today. It will resume Monday. So let's catch up on some key moments from yesterday's testimony. This is a lieutenant from the Atlanta PD testifying about an encounter he had at a store with defendant Shannon Stillwell. Let's go.
I was in a car with a marked vehicle in uniform with the other sergeant. Sergeant Heckenkamp was driving. I was in the passenger seat. We were coming down Glen Street. And the wanted person that was identified as Shannon Stillwell was over the radio. He was supposed to be coming from behind the store at the corner of Windsor and Glen. Typically is referred to as the green store. Mostly because of the paint color that it usually sports. There was a parking lot and a drive that goes behind that store and comes out from the Windsor side behind the store and onto the Glen, kind of a concrete driveway area on the Glen Street side. Sergeant Heckenkamp and I were driving eastbound, I believe eastbound? Yes, eastbound on Glen. And I spotted the subject that was, description was given over the radio. And I told Sergeant Heckenkamp to stop the car. I exited the vehicle, approached the identified subject. And he had a cell phone in his hand, and then he looked back over his shoulder where he had come from, and then placed the cell phone into his pocket. I noticed that as a pre-flight indicator that he may run. So I hastened my pace, went ahead and grabbed his left wrist. And executed the arrest. We guided him to the ground. Sergeant Heckenkamp cuffed him up. I asked him if he had anything on him at the time and that I should know about, and he said that he had some marijuana on him. After we got him cuffed up, stood up, I retrieved marijuana from his left pocket and the cell phone from his right pocket.
The marijuana that you retrieved from his left pocket, did it come in any particular form? Was it in any particular?
Yes. The marijuana was packaged in two bundles. One was a kind of a sandwich bag of loose raw marijuana. I believe it was roughly probably an ounce from the volume. And then the other package was another bag that had, I believe, roughly 50 smaller Ziploc bags. They were transparent red Ziploc bags, each containing roughly probably a gram of marijuana apiece. So those 2 packages were both in his left pocket.
Was there any significance in terms of your experience as a law enforcement officer to the packaging of 50 smaller baggies of marijuana?
Yes, in my experience, that volume of individual bags of marijuana would indicate intent to distribute, sale of marijuana.
And did you inquire, you asked Shannon Stillwell whether he had anything on this person prior to learning that he had the marijuana on this person?
Actually, just in general, once we, restrained him, placed him in physical custody, asked him if he had anything on him that I should know about. Just a general question, and his response was that he had some marijuana.
Okay, so there's Lieutenant Jimenez, you think, because no, it's not bad camera work. A lot of the witnesses, especially on the police side, have opted not to be seen on camera. Not surprising in a case like this, where you have some allegations of some nasty things being done by this YSL gang. In fact, I was kind of surprised in reading the indictment. On the last page of the indictment, all of the grand jurors are identified. No pictures, but their names are all in there. Anyway, hey, to talk about this case and the many others we've got coming at you this afternoon, I have Natalie Whittingham-Burrell. I have Katherine Lizardo. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it. Natalie, in the D.C. area, what do you think about this? The case is it's a mess. It's giant. I mean, it took 10 months for the jury to be impaneled. They're saying this could be a 4-month trial. It could be an 8-month trial. What do you think, having now just seen the first few days and the cast of characters, the number of attorneys, et cetera?
I think that the prosecution is going to need to nail it down to more than just assumptions based on names and lifestyle. And a lot of what the defense is making hay of is they're making assumptions just because of some marijuana possession and some posturing and some song lyrics that they're actually involved in this RICO organization. And right now, it doesn't seem like more than that to me. But we're still really, really early, and there's plenty of time for the state to get more concrete. But the defense is doing a really good job of showing that they're jumping to a lot of conclusions.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with a big case like this is, what the jury's hearing today, who knows what they're going to recall months down the road. Katherine, this RICO stuff is a little confusing sometimes. It's really the foundation for these other charges, and it's a way for the prosecution to get the person who might not be as active in the actual crime, but be pulling the string, so to speak. So you have to get the jury to understand that, and that's just one of the. I mean, we're talking about so many charges in this case. How do you simplify that for a jury?
It is very difficult for the prosecution to do that. What I like about with their opening statement, they acknowledge how difficult it is that RICO sounds complicated, but the prosecutor simplified it by saying they committed a bunch of crimes. That's how you can think about it. So the RICO trial is really trials, many trials within the big trial. So that's the framework that the jury has to put their mind in for the next several months.
Yep, and just this officer, just one of many that will be telling these stories. Maybe they'll be a little more important, and Natalie, you'll be more satisfied. But let's go into court again for the cross-examination of this witness.
You are the individual that first put hands on my client?
That is correct.
Okay. And you didn't, he told you, he was open and honest with you about the marijuana he had on this person, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And this marijuana that you found, you determined that it was packaged for sale, correct?
The packaging would tend to indicate that it was packaged for distribution.
Okay, and distribution means for sale.
Yes.
And he was charged as such, correct?
That is correct.
Do you have any evidence as to where he got this marijuana from?
No.
Do you have any evidence of what he was planning to do with this money that he was going to make from these marijuana sales?
No, I don't have any information on that.
You gave some weights for the marijuana. Was the marijuana, to your knowledge, weighed, or were those just approximations that you were making?
The approximations are from my, kind of a visual description of those, but I believe when they were processed, they were all the items were weighed.
Okay, but you don't know the official weights from the weighing of the items.
I do from reflection of my recollection on the report. Yes.
Okay. What were the weights?
I believe the weights were 50 grams, I believe, for the packaged 50 bags of marijuana, and I think it was 28 grams for the loose raw marijuana in the sandwich bag, I believe. But I would have to refresh from the report.
Just so we're clear, 50 grams is for the total of all the bags.
No, I believe it's 88 is the total for both. With the numbers, I would have to actually look at the report because the report has the actual, accurate numbers. I only know, what I pulled from his pocket and my estimation at the time. I didn't turn the drugs into the evidence room, so that's where they would be weighed and they were documented in the report.
Fair enough. But when you said 50, you were talking about the entire total of all the small bags, not each bag.
I believe so, yeah.
So if this were a few years ago, 5 years, 10 years, this whole marijuana thing might kind of resonate more. And, but I'm telling you, in this day and age, marijuana, walking from Grand Central to the studio, I'm getting a contact high. It's not a big deal. So Katherine, by the way, is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Katherine, maybe they're building to the greater parts of the organization, the more serious crimes. What do you think? What's the plan here, if you can suss that out from this initial witness or two we've heard?
Well, right now they're focusing on the marijuana, specifically the intent to distribute marijuana, which is part of their indictment, 95 pages long of indictment. So there's multiple defendants that were charged with intent to distribute. And the theory of the state is that they were distributing marijuana as part of the racketeering activity and in furtherance of that enterprise. That's where the RICO gets involved in that, because you need to have an enterprise, an illegal group doing racketeering, which is doing a bunch of illegal stuff. That's my legal definition of racketeering.
A bunch of illegal stuff. Well, Natalie, that's what's interesting about RICO, and we're going to talk much more about it later when we talk about the Trump matter, also in Georgia. But it's being expanded in terms of what it's used for. It was, created in 1970. It was for to get the mob guys who would just sit back in an office and let all their minions do the bad stuff. So now it's being expanded tremendously to, in this case, this is a seminal case in terms of the approach to the music industry. And, what happens here could affect many cases of similar nature going down the road. So we're watching it. We're showing it to you. I think we're going to, is that right, Producer Giuliani? Should we take a break here?